Hello, and welcome to the Empowered Learning Podcast. This is your host, Andy Bennett. On today's episode, we welcome Amanda Robinson. Amanda is a passionate teacher currently making her mark on students in a middle school health class. In addition to her master's in curriculum and instruction and multiple leadership roles, Amanda also serves as the International Missions Coordinator for the Rocky Mountain region. As if that wasn't enough, she's an amazing mom, grandma, and the best sister I've ever had. Please welcome my one and only sister, Mrs. Amanda Robinson.
Hello there, Amanda Kay.
Good morning.
How are you?
Good. How are you?
Great. I'm great.
Good.
So we've been talking about this for a while. This is going to be super fun. So welcome to the Empowered Learning Podcast. We appreciate you taking some time off of your break to talk to us. And I think like I said, I think it's going to be a fun time.
Me too.
Awesome. So I told you yesterday that we were going to kind of slow roll into the fact that that you are my sister, but let's just rip the Band-Aid off and just let everybody know this is my one and only awesome sister. And she's an amazing mother and grandma and sister and an amazing educator, which is why she's here today. So it's going to be fun talking about this. I was thinking about it this morning that, you know, we obviously see each other and talk to each other all the time, but I can't remember the last time that we just sat down and talked education stuff, right? It's usually, what about, you know, this or that or church or family stuff. So this will be fun, right?
Yes.
All right. Very good. So I obviously know you pretty well.
You do.
Most listeners, I would be willing to bet. But for those that don't know you, tell us a little bit about yourself.
I am a wife and a mom. My kids are all in their 20s. My youngest just turned 20 this last week. So that's insane to me to think about that. So we are kind of in this newly empty nest phase. We have a grandbaby that's 4, and she is just kind of the light of our lives. We just love her to pieces. Yep. I came into education kind of a little bit later and this is my 12th year teaching. Most of those years have been at the middle school level. And I love it. I started there and then kind of thought like, I'll go to the high school because that was kind of always my plan. That was always my hope to work with that age kids, and went and decided I just really love those little middle schools. So went back down to middle school, and I love my job. I love where I get to teach. We have a amazing principal and leadership, and I just feel extremely blessed to work where I work. In my spare time, when I'm not momming or being a grandma or teaching, I love and get the awesome privilege to plan missions trips for our church's district. And I love that more than I could probably put into words, and get to, some of them are here in the United States. A lot of them are international. And so getting to work with missionaries in different places in the world and just kind of come alongside them and bring a group and, just kind of be their hands and feet and kind of serve the missionary as well as, the people of wherever we're at is, it's just been life-changing, and I'm super passionate about that too and love it.
I love it. So you mentioned before that you came into education a little bit later. I went, again, just because we're family, right? I went straight out of high school into college thinking that I wanted to be a teacher, and you came to that decision a little bit later. I guess when did you know you wanted to be a teacher, and did you have like a turning point of like kind of that aha moment of like, this is what I want to do with my life?
When our kids were young, I stayed at home. I was a stay-at-home mom, and but I got involved with a pregnancy center here in town. And one of the things that we did was we would go into local middle school and high schools and teach a program that was just healthy relationships. It was it was an abstinence-based program, but we'd spend 2 weeks at, high school here, 2 weeks in a high school a little bit away, and just kind of rotate through the year. And I loved it. And I loved being with the students and just talking about things that really were important to them. And I kind of thought, man, this would be so fun to not just have like a little 2-week stint with them, but to really get to, just get to pour into them a little bit longer and get to know them. And so when all of our kids got into school, I went back and got my teaching degree. I had so the classes that I would go in and teach with the center were health classes, and so that was kind of always my hope, was to teach health, and kind of my dream, honestly, to teach health. But we live in a very small town, and it's rural, and we don't have a lot of access to local colleges or anything. And so when I was digging into programs, there was not really a health educator
Sure.
degree or whatever, right, that I could find online. And so I went to the second best thing, which was science. I love biology. I love human anatomy and stuff like that. And so I got my degree in biology, and then started my student teaching. All my kids were in school, and kind of fell into a job kind of at the end of my student teaching, and just haven't ever gone back. I taught science for 8 years, 2 of those being at the high school. And we had my principal at the time was actually my mentor teacher. She was who I did my student teaching with. And we just live in a community, and every community has its own challenges. We have some pretty unique challenges in the school district that I'm in, and behaviors were really just becoming kind of a big issue. I think we had one year where our sixth graders had, I think there was something like 10 fights within the first 15 days of school. I mean, it was just insanity. And so she and I were having a conversation one day, and she said, what do we do? How do we get a hold of this? How do we whatever? And that night I was kind of just praying about it, and the Lord just dropped health class into my heart. And it was so exciting because it was something that I'd wanted to do really all along.
Right.
And so I went to the next day and I said, what if we had a health class? Because our middle school hadn't offered that, I don't know if ever. Right. But and teach some of those skills of, conflict resolution and emotional control, and just, some really social emotional things, to see if we can combat some of the issues that we were seeing. And so she said, well, draw up a proposal, create a syllabus, create a plan, and we can present it to the district. And so that's what we did. And so 4 years ago, I got to come to my dream job and teach health. And I love it. Sixth grade. It's offered 6th, 7th, and 8th, but 6th graders are required to take it. And so that's really fun to kind of set some of those just ground rules of life and relationships. And it's just been really awesome to see. And so that's kind of my journey of teaching, and I love it.
That's very cool. That's very cool. And I obviously had remembered when you were talking about this, the teaching the abstinence program initially, right? So it sounds like that was kind of the flame or the fire that kind of set you on this path, and then to kind of come full circle through way of science classes to get to the point where you wanted to be. So that's super cool. Yeah. And how awesome is it that while this is your passion and your mission, we all know that teachers that stick in it very long are on a mission field, right? There's no way about it. There's no two ways about it. They don't get paid enough to do this just because, right? I mean, there's that as well. So, but how cool is it that it came full circle with starting with wanting to connect with kids and helping them to communicate better and just deal with life better, and through science, getting back to that point where you can do that on a day-to-day basis. So that's awesome. It's very, very cool. You mentioned that there were, fights and just a bad environment, I guess, and a lot of that can be classes and turnover. There's 1,000 reasons that could cause that. Do you feel, looking back now that this is 4th year in, that the offering of that health class has helped to, I guess, macro and micro, right? Micro, like, made differences in students' lives, and then macro, like at a school level, do you think that has kind of helped to change the culture of just how they deal with conflicts?
Yeah. Micro, I think for sure, I've definitely had conversations with students that, you know, uh, talk about something that just really meant a lot to them, or, you know, uh, I do a lesson journal. And so every few days they have to, write down, what did we do in this lesson? What did I learn in it? And then how does it connect to my real life?
Right.
One of the things that I usually start the class with, I'll talk about how, how many of you have ever sat in a math class and just wondered, like, when am I ever going to use this? And of course, all their little hands go up, and, sitting in the English class and learning about, I don't know, dangling participle. I can't even say that word. The thing that we can't say. Yeah. When are you going to ever use that? Everybody kind of, and then, just because I'm pumping up my class to them, right. I say, this class is so important, because everything that we talk about really will have life application, and there will be something that you can apply today when you leave the classroom and you're talking with your friends at recess. Right. And hopefully you can carry those skills and build those skills, and it can matter to you, when you're an adult. And so we talk about that a lot. And so reading through, some of their lesson journals and reading through some of those connections have been really, it's just awesome, because things that I think they're going to connect to are things that I'm going to say, like, oh, this could apply to you in this way. It's not always what they connect to or the way that they do, but it's been really fun to watch them take what we do in class and say, like, how does it affect my life? And so for sure, I know there's micro. Macro, I hope. I would love to think that some of the things that they're learning, specifically in my class, help them. I think emotional control, we are talking middle schoolers. And so those hormones are running, and they feel emotions that they've never really felt before at this juncture of their life. And so really kind of walking alongside them and talking about, how we can feel something, but we don't always have to act on that feeling. Or when we have problems, like, what are some strategies to work through those problems? I would love to think, yes. I mean, I will say fighting is down. I will say, discipline issues are down. So is that a result? I don't know, but I would love to think that it contributes to, the building as a whole. I know I've had teachers, which is always one of the best compliments, say something about, like, well, so-and-so brought up in class the other day what they were learning in health. And, so that was really cool. I had we do a budgeting, financial health piece in 8th grade. And this year at a parent-teacher conference, I had a mom say, she came home and she said, "Mom, we need to make a budget, and I know how I can help you." And so the mom was very happy that, she said, "And it's probably true. I probably need to be doing that." And so, I think there's always, in teaching, there's always those, you pour in, some things are going to stick, some things are not. Right. From one of those classes from way back when I taught with the center, I've had a couple of kids, which they're adults now, actually, come to me and say, like, I have thought about that class so many times. Like, I remember when you did this, and I remember. So, you just kind of spread the seed, and you pray and hope and know that, someday it may trigger something that, right now it doesn't matter, but maybe someday it will.
Yeah, the waiting game, I think, is probably one of the hardest on an educator's heart, right? Because, like you said, you pour in, and sometimes you see the seed, sometimes you don't. Sometimes it's years after the fact, and but those little moments of encouragement definitely keep you going. So that's awesome. So I guess tell me about and I know you, so I'm trying to phrase this question in a way that's not going to take us too deep too early, right? We have to work our way up to this, but tell me about an instance where you just really connected with a kid in it, and you feel like the relationship and the what that you were teaching. And I want to get back to relationships because that I know you, and I know that's a huge part of just how you are able to be so successful and impact so many people's lives is because you do care and that you care about relationships. But let's circle back around to that one. What is an instance or a moment with a kid that you're like, that made a difference in their lives and it touched your heart? So like one of those times like where you can call back on it, like when you're having a rough day and be like, because I was able to help out Johnny, this is going to keep me going. Can you think of a moment like that?
I can. I had a young lady, very difficult, always in trouble, pretty defiant. And she and I just kind of hit it off right from the very beginning. And so she would be, in detention all day, but like for my hour, she got to come to class. She had a lot of mental health struggles. And when I had her, or this instance anyways, was when she was in 8th grade, and she had multiple, stints in like, the mental hospital in the state, because of some of the things that she was struggling with. And so she just really had a hard time. And so teachers know this, lots of times those are the students who have terrible attendance. And she did.
Yeah.
So I was always so happy when she was there, and, just tried to love on her as best I could, when she was there, because I really didn't know when the next time I would see her. But we were coming up on a emotional health unit that I just desperately wanted her to be there for. And I was just like, man, if, there's just this one lesson in particular that I really, really, really wanted her to be there for. And so I just started praying, like, Lord, just get her there that day. Like, just let her be there that day. And she was.
Awesome.
And we were just talking, and it was honestly, like, it was just taking notes. That's what the students were doing at this point. And we were just talking about how I draw like a little Venn diagram, and the emotions are in the middle and values and beliefs are on the side. And we just talk about how like our values and our beliefs inform how we feel about something, so if I value something pretty small or pretty low level, I'm not going to have a real big emotional response to it. Versus if I love something and, my value of it's really high, then my emotional response, if something were to happen to that valuable thing, is really high. And our beliefs are really important too. If I believe, and I use the example with students, if you believe you're really bad at math and you tell yourself that over and over and over, we kind of get into the biology of that and wiring yourself to think that. If you believe that, then you feel bad about yourself when you don't do well in math, even though it's probably self-fulfilling type of thing.
Sure.
And in terms of emotional, if you feel like you're worthless, you act that way, it manifests, and but we were talking about just in that class, like how oftentimes, and that's true for everybody. So sometimes when we receive an emotional response from someone else, sometimes it's not because of us. Sometimes it's because of their own stuff that they're carrying. And this girl, and I'm saying it very poorly and very, broadly, but we kind of dug into this concept of other people's emotions. They're their emotions, and they don't have to affect us. And I just saw this girl, sitting in the back room, and she's kind of taking notes and she's kind of doodling, and I have no idea if she's really totally paying attention. And once we started doing this, she just kind of got really quiet. She put her pencil down, and I thought, oh goodness, is she, here I've prayed her into the classroom, and now she's not even paying attention. And anyways, I keep talking, and I look over there, and she just has like little tears rolling down her cheeks. And I thought, oh, is that good? Is it bad? Have I triggered something in her that's, whatever? And she was, class gets over, and she's kind of hanging back, and I'm kind of just trying to prepare myself for, I don't know what, but something. And the last kid leaves the class, and I turn and I see her, and she just comes and just hugs me so big. And she goes, "That was just so good." And she goes, "I just needed to hear that. I needed to hear that, people's emotional response to me is their deal, and I can deal with me." But anyway, so that was one that really sticks with me. And I think she's a senior this year, and we'll see each other in Walmart, and she still comes in. And I think it was just a breakthrough for her. And again, did it change her life? I don't know, but I know it changed her day. And I know that it is in there. So hopefully, when life happens, and she can draw back on that. So for sure. That was a really emotional one that I love to think back on.
Absolutely. So obviously through that story, you can tell I don't know, type sounds really general, but the type of teacher that you are. There's those teachers that kind of check in, check out type deal, and there's other ones that just kind of pour in and deeply care for their students. I hate to say that, but we know that it's true. You definitely fall into the latter category, where you deeply care and love your students. From being a teacher, having kids, I know, looking into schools, how absent, I guess, positive family relationships, positive influences are on so many kids, and it's very apparent sometimes when you see these kiddos. I guess what do you do, and I guess how do you walk that line? Because there is a line. You're not their parent, right? But you do care for them. You want to share with them and make sure that they know that this is a safe place, that you can speak with them, and that you will speak honestly with them and care for them. But again, you can't be that. So how do you walk that line? Because I would think you, probably more than the English or math teacher, get to walk that line and get to be someone that is deeply caring for your students.
And now, a brief commercial from today's sponsor. Hey guys, Andy Bennett's owner and president of Interactive Learning. Our awesome little company has been around for close to 20 years now, and our core purpose and mission is to empower the future of education with innovative solutions through engaging technologies and leadership programs. We are blessed to work with a wide range of markets, including K-12, trades, corporate, and government. Interactive Learning is also proud to serve our nation's JROTC programs with over 3,000 units and 500,000 cadets. For our podcast listeners today, we have a special offer just for you. It's called our Class Tech Discovery Session. This is incredibly helpful for teachers, administrators, tech personnel, really anybody involved in helping students learn with technology. Here's what you get with the Class Tech Discovery Session. It starts with a short Zoom call. We'll talk about your class needs, your wants, desires, really your class wish list of ed tech. Then we'll touch on your timelines and budgets, plus any constraints that your district might be facing. Next, we'll look at new tech and new solutions, the latest and greatest out there that might be applicable to you and your district. And if you're interested, we'll even demonstrate these crazy cool, cutting-edge technologies just for you. Finally, we'll give you an idea of costs and professional development and how we and our team will support you moving forward. Again, that is Interactive Learning's Class Tech Discovery Session. Request your session now by texting Discovery to 970-739-2229 or emailing Discovery to andy@intlrn.com. Request your school's highly informative Class Tech Discovery Session today. And now, back to the Empowered Learning Podcast.
I do definitely feel like the privilege of teaching health, just the concepts that we cover, just the things that we, and some of it's pretty low level,
right.
Eating healthy, right. Budgeting, those are pretty easy. But then, we dig deep, I mean, honestly, relationships is and social health,
Right.
brings up a lot of hurt sometimes in kids. And walking that line, I think, is, I mean, it's certainly something I'm better at than I started, but I don't know that you'll ever reach, I don't know, like, you're always learning, and every kid's different. So it's
Right.
like, it's really hard sometimes to figure that out. I think I just personally take a challenge to the students who get a little more defiant. I don't know. I just kind of have that, like, I will make you like me and I will make you. And so just trying to, I think, balance that, I really am interested, but I also am going to respect you. And if you're just flat out not in the mood today, I'm going to be respectful of that. I think that gaining their trust isn't something that you can push on them. And so I think that finding that, I try to start every class, my one rule is respect. That's it, because everything else really can fall underneath that, whatever. But, we talk about the 3 directions of respect. And, when they come in my door, I will treat them with respect. Like, that's just an expectation I set of myself. And, and if I fail at that, I go and I apologize and I make sure that, that's established. That, and I think that kids, I think a lot of times they are disrespected in their life. I think there is probably a lot of times that they're not regarded with the value and the worth that they are valuable and worthy of. And then I also think that sometimes students have a misconception of what respect looks like, and, oh, well,
Sure.
If you disagree with me, well, that's disrespect. No, it's not. How I treat you, how I approach you. And so kind of, teaching what that respect looks like, but I hold myself to a very high standard of that. I demand that from them to me. Sure. And just say, like, you will be respectful of me in this classroom. As much as I hold myself to that expectation, I hold you to that expectation.
Right.
And then the 3rd direction we talk about is peer-to-peer. And nothing, I feel like I'm a pretty patient person, a pretty, I do kind of run a tight ship, but I do have a lot of grace, except for when a student is disrespectful to another student. Like, if you're mean, if you're making fun of, like, that is like a 0 tolerance thing to me. And they know that from day one. And so we just kind of establish this, there's nobody in the planet that wants to feel like they're disrespected or not valued. Yeah. So it's like, if we can set that expectation and that level of, like, that is our culture within the classroom, then I feel like those relationships can get there. That line can be found, of, am I their parent? No. And frankly, I mean, there have been some kids that I'll come home and I'll tell my husband, like, oh, I just want to bring them home. And then there's other kids that I'm like, I would never bring them in my home, but I will love them much, a lot at school. But I feel like, you don't have to view yourself as like, oh, if I could just rescue them, if I could just save them. Right. I don't know that that's necessarily a great view either. We talk a lot about respecting parents. We talk about, especially as a health teacher, and some subjects that we talk about, I will have personal different views or opinions of a certain subject than a lot of the kids that come into my classroom, or the families that are represented there. And so I write it in my parent letter. I make it very clear to the students, I don't want to dishonor that. I don't want to, now, if they come from a really dysfunctional, unhealthy family, do I want to show them maybe there are different ways. You're not bound to following in those footsteps just because that's what you know. Sure. There is, you can learn skills that maybe your parents didn't have, but that's not to be disrespectful of, their family, because I feel like that's even when we know our family's not perfect, mm-hmm. we don't want people to attack it. We don't want people to, point out the flaws in our family. We get very defensive. And so I'm very aware of that, and just kind of, I will love you as your teacher. I will, I do care about you. I want to know what's going on. We journal. Besides the lesson journal, we'll do just like check-in journals, and, trying to really actually look at what they're saying, and really understand. So many times the kids won't come up to me and say, my parents are going through a divorce and I'm really struggling, but they will write it. Yeah. They will write it in their journals, and so it's like me just seeing that in that journal, and then then it's on me, and I can go and say, how are you doing today? I've had students tell me in their journals, my parents' custody hearing is this week. I will find out this week if I stay here and live with my mom, or if I have to move, and live with dad. And so it's like, I think that giving them opportunities to talk about themselves. They are little humans. We all love to talk about ourselves. And so if you just prompt that and give that opportunity, and my class is super unique in that it totally affords that. It gives me that freedom to have really meaningful conversations really often. I don't have to wait or work really hard to make it fit. It just fits, which is awesome.
That's awesome. Can we circle back around to your respect? You'd mentioned 3 things. I want to make sure that I get all of them. So what were the 3 levels, or what did you call them?
I just said directions of respect. So teacher to student is number 1.
Okay.
And then student to teacher. And I start that way very intentionally, to just say like, again, like it's kind of that you can't demand respect necessarily. Like, yeah, you do have to earn it. Right. So like, I will say like, I am going to earn your respect by being respectful, and I start with myself. And so I think that that's important.
Well, you had mentioned the fact that if and when, you misstep, or you're having a rough day, and you kind of, and we've all been there, right? You kind of jump on a kid, right? And that you misstep or whatever. The fact that you are modeling for them that when you make a mistake, you swallow your pride and you apologize from the heart. Like, how many kids don't ever see other examples of that? Like, even well-meaning parents. I mean, I feel like I'm a pretty good dad. Like, that's hard. It's not easy to apologize when you do something wrong. But it comes back to those things of those little seeds that you're planting. You may not see the impact that makes, but I guarantee that them seeing that and modeling that from somebody they respect is going to make a difference in their future life. So that's awesome.
I hope so.
Yes, me too. So in your the conversation that we had beforehand, and I answered a question of just things that interest you. You mentioned relationships and leadership relationships. Let me pull it up and make sure I get the right thing. So healthy organizations, people in leadership leadership roles without titles, and then just relationships. We talked a little bit about the relationship side, but let's talk about what makes a good leader in your opinion, and we'll just dive into that a little bit.
Ooh, there's a lot of things. I mentioned before, I have a really super strong leadership at our school that I'm very extremely thankful for. I have had, multiple principals, some really great, some not so great. And I think that, something that kind of I see in all of the ones that I really felt were really good. I think the 2 words that keep coming back to my mind are trust and humility. And I think that it's really hard to earn trust when you when you're a leader that feels like you have all the answers, or you're very, staunch and like, by God, this is the way it's going to be, and nobody, and I say that understanding that there are times where leaders just have to say, like, this is the way it's going to be. And I'm a rule follower. So when, if my boss says something that I even disagree with, but he, was to say, like, nope, this is how it's going to be, I'm going to comply, and I'm going to go with it. And I'm going to trust him. But I feel like the ability to gain trust is huge. Having, I've had some principals where it's like they had phenomenal ideas, and they had fantastic, they were high level educators. But when they didn't have that relationship of trust, it fell a little bit flat. It could have been, man, if they would have had that and the trust of the people that were below them. I mean, that would have been probably the recipe for, perfect. But I think that humility of, we're gonna do this, we're gonna have a team, we're gonna work hard, and if it doesn't work, I'm not too big of a person to say that didn't go so well, let's try something different. And so I think, those are two big ones, I think, for me. And maybe that's just my personality. I like people that I, can feel like I can trust them. They will trust me, to do my job, to do, do it well.
Right.
And then we just kind of have this, we could say that word respect back and forth too, of just, I think that all fits in there, but humility is a big one for me too.
I'm smiling here just because I'm thinking, like, I wonder if some of those leaders in the past could have benefited from a Mrs. Robinson class talking about respect always around and how this works. And when you don't come up to that level, that you apologize with a true intention and with humility. So who knows, and I know that you agree with this, that no one has arrived. We're all still learning. And I think the fact that if you can own that and just be okay with the fact that you don't know everything and show that vulnerability, I guess. I think maybe it's a little bit harder as a leader to not admit that, or not come off the fact that the appearance that you know everything. Just understand that this is a team effort and that we're in this together. I may misstep, but if we do this together, I think it's the best way forward for sure.
Right. I had when I was doing my student teaching, and I felt very inadequate. The teacher that I was working with, I felt very, so grateful. She was a master teacher, just incredible educator. And so I felt just so inadequate, and my degree is in biology, but then of course, like at middle school, you don't just teach biology, you teach physics, you teach chemistry, you teach, ecology, you teach. Right. And so, and I can remember, she had this gigantic whiteboard that filled up the whole room. And I was just kind of saying, I'm so overwhelmed. I feel so inadequate. And she went and she took a marker, and the whole board was clean. And she just put the tiniest little dot on the board. And she said, Amanda, that's how much science I know. And I was like, yeah, right. And she said, but that was her point, was, do I know more than you? Yeah. Do I still not know a whole lot more than I actually know? Right. And so that has kind of stuck with me. And it was that humility of, sure, like she was very confident in what she knew. She was very good at what she knew, but she never, felt like she had arrived. And, that is another thing, great leaders, like, they're great learners. And I think that's really important.
Yeah, I love it. Well, time flies when you're having fun. I wish we could just continue and talk all day, because I've learned some things about you, even though we've known each other for our whole lives. But we're going to do a grab bag question, which like we were talking before, of everything that we had discussed ahead of time. This is the only one that might be I don't want to say a gotcha, but you and I don't know what question we're going to get, but we're going to give this a shot.
All right.
Okay. question 18. I don't think we've asked that one of any other guests. So here we go. Question 18 is, what is the most important lesson you've learned over your career? That's not too deep. That's you got that one. No problem. Important lesson that you've learned over your career.
Goodness. Be prepared.
Okay.
I think in a classroom, I don't know, that's a pretty shallow lesson, but I think it really is important. I feel like that humility piece, right? Like,
Okay.
yes, be confident, know what you're going in there, but man, that doesn't mean that you can take it, for granted that like, oh, I know this, I'm just going to go in and I'm going to pour out my wisdom. My kids are going to just soak it up. I think being a good teacher is a lot of preparation. It's a lot of thought into, how can I make this the most meaningful? How can I take this lesson? And maybe I've done a lesson a couple of times and it's okay, but like, is there something that I could do to make it better? Right. Being, willing to, not question yourself, but also, say that did not go well. Either right. I need to throw that sucker out or I need to make it better. Being prepared. I've had a few student teachers in my class over the years, and I always say, you can never guess their timing. We might think this is going to take the whole hour, and right. they may fly through it. So like, what are you going to do if there's extra time? Right. And so just kind of being prepared. I think emotionally being prepared, spiritually being prepared. Right. Just besides all the nitty gritty, things. But I think that certainly the days that I have not come in very prepared, it's not a very fun day. Super stressful.
Those are few and far between now, I'm sure.
For sure.
All right. So everybody gets the 3 key questions from the Empowered Learning Podcast. So, and Kay, first one, who is a leader that you most admire and try to emulate?
This one was hard for me because there's 3. So I'm just going to say all 3 of them.
Gotcha.
Jesus.
Yep.
I think one of the things that my faith is the most important thing to me. And so just watching how, he's the greatest leader ever.
Right.
But I love the verse, his kindness leads us to repentance, and so it's like, as I even am in classrooms, it's like the kindness, like it wasn't just this great, strong, this is the way it's going to be. But I think that the tenderness is what that I definitely try to emulate. I'm going to cry. My dad. Because he was like Jesus. And I think a lot of times that if I'm struggling or if I'm, man, do I wish I could call my dad, because he was just a great leader. He had great insight. One of the things that used to annoy the heck out of me was he played devil's advocate, in any situation that I brought to him. Right. And it would annoy me because I would just agree with me, Dad, and, give me what I think I want to hear. But he always kind of brought in that other side of it. And I really appreciate that. And so in my leading, it's I think he taught me just not, we don't have to play the devil's advocate for the sake of just being contrary, but like, he was very good at seeing all sides. He was very good at trying to figure out the, just other different perspectives.
Right.
Yep. And so, so that was a good one. And I think just professionally, my husband Dave is he's an administrator, and he handles children and their struggles so well. He just doesn't he doesn't ever get super emotional or riled. He can just stay very even keel. He actually is at my building now, and so of course he can't be my immediate supervisor, so he'll never be my evaluator. Mm-hmm. But I have colleagues all the time tell me, like, oh my gosh, Dave just gave me the greatest, like they love when Dave's their evaluator, because he brings great insight and great questions. And so since he doesn't actually get to like observe me and whatever, I just try to poke questions at him every once in a while of like, what should I do with this? And how could I do this? Because he just has a really good creative mind that's very different than the way that I create. And so I think that that's kind of a good, I love how he leads and our family, he's a good one.
I kind of like him too.
I like him. Oh, good.
And you're welcome for introducing you.
I know.
I always take credit for
your
that.
Friend first. I know.
I'll never not.
I do appreciate it.
Fun stuff. All right. What learning has most impacted you in the last year? You talked about in the grab bag question kind of over your career, but just in the last year, podcast, conference, conversation, what has impacted your learning the most?
I think for education anyways, for sure. Our school has implemented, it's called responsibility centered discipline, RCD. And it is phenomenal. I think that a lot of times in education, we just take so much off of the kids, when a kid blows up out of class or, has an issue, we tell them, this is what you did wrong. This is how you're going to fix it. This, and go back into class or whatever. Where this is it just puts it right back into their lap and is like, what was the expectation you broke?
Right.
What's the benefit of following the expectations that we have, and it gives them kind of ownership for it and ownership for behavior. And it honestly, it fits a lot of kind of my thought patterns anyways, but it gives me a pattern to follow. It gives me kind of this, it's not scripted by any means, but it's just kind of a framework that I think has been incredibly important for the middle school. And, it's teaching those kids those lessons of, my actions impact me, they impact others. And what am I going to do about it? It's my responsibility. And so I have loved implementing that in class this year.
That's awesome. I love it. I'll have to find out more about that. That could fit in other places that I work with and schools. So that's awesome. All right. Last one. Like the name says, of empowered learning. And I always kind of preface this because every guest is a little bit unique. So as a teacher, how would you empower learning for a future generation? So you can look at it through the lens of a teacher. You can look at it through the lens of your kids. The one that might get your heartstrings is of Nikaya, of your granddaughter. If you could wave a magic wand, what would you do to improve and empower learning for future generations?
Yeah, this one was a tough one too, as I was thinking through this. I think we do a lot on just the impacts of social media in my class. I feel like one thing I would just love for future generations to understand is technology is a tool to be used, but not, I just feel like it has just reshaped. Well, we know it has. I mean, science has shown it has reshaped brains. And so just maybe the how to use technology wisely, how to use it correctly instead of just this entertainment suck, because I feel like it just sucks away their little lives. And another thing that I really feel is so important is failure is inevitable. It's okay to fail. It's okay for things to be really hard and for you to have to work for something. I see that so many times in my class, that they just give up so quickly because something's hard. And it's like, no, that's what makes it good. Once you finally achieve whatever, is that it was hard and it was whatever. And so I think that if we could instill maybe that little bit of grit, I think that, talk about empowered learning. If you didn't give up every time it got hard, you could just really do whatever your little heart desired.
Absolutely.
And so those are
I love the movement and all of the studies around grit. And I don't know if it was in that or another one, but this idea of failing forward. I think that was actually one of the grab bag questions. What do you think of that statement of fail forward? It doesn't have to be a crushing loss. It can be the thing that catapults you into the right direction, right? You learn the way not to do it. Now you can check that one off the list. Now you can go to another direction and learn from that.
Right. Yep. Definitely. It's not the end game.
Not the end game. Exactly right.
So.
Well, Amanda, this was a lot of fun. I know you were nervous. I don't know why, because you were a super smart, amazing educator in person. So I appreciate you spending a few minutes of your Christmas vacation with me. And I love you, and I'm very proud of you.
I love you too, bud. I'm proud of you. You're the best.
Thank you very much.
You.
All right. Love you.
We'll see
you
ya.
guys. Bye.